On this episode of Just Informed Talk, Q gives us an inside look into the FBI investigation into Professor Ford's allegations against Judge Kavanaugh and much, much more. Hi, I'm Craig and welcome to Just Informed Talk. I always like to start by saying thank you to all my subscribers because I truly am thankful for you guys who hit that button. If you haven't done that already, please come to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button. It helps the channel out more than you guys will ever know. Now, today's video is going to cover the latest Q posts, and we're going to start right here. And if you guys want to get caught up to where we're at, you can come back here to the homepage, go and watch this video, these videos back, and watch this one too if you want to get a good idea of this crazy epidemic of fentanyl that's being pushed into our country by Chinese manufacturers. And that's a great little in-depth report I did there. And also, if you want to get caught up, like I said, with the QAnon post, you can come here. And if you're scratching your head going, what's QAnon? You really want to figure that out, you can watch this video. It'll give you a good idea of what QAnon, the Great Awakening is, ways to get involved, ways to do the research, how to find the information, all of that. And you can just share this, even if you know all that, with your friends, family, and loved ones who you want to wake up to what's going on. So we're going to get through this fairly quickly, hopefully. We have a lot to cover here. We're going to talk about John Perry Barlow, Edward Snowden. We're going to talk about how that is how there's a connection that's being given to us by Q between those two. And is this the beginning of Red October as far as exposing that connection? Also, we're going to talk about Professor Ford, Kavanaugh's accuser, and what her connections to the swamp are and what the FBI investigation is turning out, and the fact that we are going to have, according to Q and others, a vote by the end of this week to confirm Judge Kavanaugh to the Supreme Court. Also, stick around because near the end, we're going to have another proof of Q, which is just a really great way to cap things off. So let's go ahead and start right here. This is a tweet that Q wants us to look at. And it's by this person named Maria Wall. It's at Maria Wall 93. Good job getting noticed by Q. That's great. And it says, I was just told by the Secret Service that I cannot come inside the stadium wearing a shirt with a Q, hashtag Q on it. And so I guess this is in Tennessee where President Trump is giving his speech very shortly, or as we speak. But I'm recording it, so I'll be watching it right after this video. But this is basically amazing. You know, everyone, God bless you guys. I don't know if you guys watch this show or if you know them, whoever, look at this. This is us coming together. This is the next American Revolution. We're standing up for what's right, and Q's pointing it out. And, they have these crazy threats before the rally, so the Secret Service can't let people in with that stuff on. But you know what? God bless each and every one of you showing up in force and doing what's great. And it says VIP Patriots. So we may see them throughout the evening. They may get pointed to. You never know. This is how Q works. Sometimes people like that will just get pointed out and they'll be picked out in the crowd. But we'll have to wait and see. It says, it says in the metaphorical kill box, which is this bold brackets here. It says they call in threats prior to each rally in an effort to diminish reach of message. All for a LARP. When one shirt is not enough, two becomes the solution. Q. So basically, I think what it's just saying is that these shirts are really becoming indicative of how they're trying to stop us. They're trying to stop the message. They're trying to stop the signage. They're calling it in as a threat, and it's basically preventing people from allowing them in. And I have a feeling that when we see something later, it might make a little more sense when one shirt is enough, two becomes a solution, or is not enough, two becomes a solution, as in maybe President Trump will point to two people with Q shirts or give some sort of little signal. I don't know, but that's up for you guys. Now, the next one. Now, this next one's talking about Chris Evans. You guys probably know him the best as he played Captain America. He's a Hollywood actor. Basically, he's gone after Kanye West. And what has he done? Well, basically, Kanye West put up a tweet, and then he is a part of Hollywood trying to talk sense into Kanye West. And basically, it's just ridiculous, and Q's pointing this out, that they're trying to rewrite history. That's what the left has been trying to do. They're trying to pretend that they weren't the party of slavery, that they weren't the Southern Democrats who were in favor of segregation and racial discrimination. They're trying to whitewash the past and brainwash people into believing that the Republicans were not always the party of conservative values and of protection of all races, all creeds, all colors. Now, it doesn't mean they were perfect, but they were not the Democrats who were the in favor of slavery. And historically, there was no change. All the Democrats did was switch tactics. And that's something that nobody ever picks up on, is that instead of them actually changing their ways, they became this virtue signaling party of the people, where they basically put figureheads on top of these huge swaths of people who are forced to vote in lockstep and have groupthink and not think for themselves. It's called the Democrat plantation for a reason. And this Chris Evans guy, who, you guys know him from Captain America. I'm not even going to pull up a picture of that moron. Excuse me, that less low IQ individual who's making this comment. But it's talking about Kanye West. And what's it talking about? Well, what Q points out to us first is the Chris Evans tweet, where Chris Evans says there's nothing more maddening than debating someone who doesn't know history, doesn't read books, and frames their myopia as virtue. The level of unapologetic conjecture I've encountered lately isn't just frustrating, it's retrogressive, unprecedented, and absolutely terrifying. Well, it should be terrifying to you, because your whole little system of control through deception and misinformation is crumbling before your eyes, and all of the institutions that you've believed in, you're seeing are corrupt, but you won't admit it to yourself, Chris. And that's the unfortunate part. At least a guy like Kanye actually has the gall and the ability to admit what the truth is. That we are making America great again, that this is represents something good for America and America becoming whole again. He's talking about the hat that he's wearing. He says we will no longer outsource to other countries, other countries our jobs. We'll build factories here, we'll create jobs, and we'll truly abolish the 13th Amendment. What does he mean by that? It means the 13th Amendment was basically what abolished slavery, but inside of that, it actually says, originally it said that it is illegal to have slavery unless you are basically imprisoned. And prisons do basically have the right to wage individuals under slave labor, which is why we have this whole corporate prison system in our country, right? And they use slave labor to basically, we're not talking about slave as in not paid. They're paid like 10 cents an hour, which, they could work for 500 years and maybe make enough to have a, 1-bedroom apartment for a month. Or for a year. And that, though, is what is being pointed out to us, right? It's basically saying that Kanye wants a greater America for everyone, just like we all do. We don't want to see African-American men, Hispanic men, even any men being locked up unfairly and not able to come back and have an opportunity to create a life after that. But what Q, I think, wants us to point more overly to, I'll leave that for you guys to argue in the comments, is this next tweet, right, which is actually from Katrina Pearson, which is actually correcting the record, because as Q says here, he says quick history lesson, and this is for Chris, I believe, who has 9 million followers because he's Captain America, even though he doesn't represent the America that I know, that I live in, the true and real America. But that's for him. He can represent whatever America he believes he lives in, right? So it says white Republican men are evil, they say, but who, 1, abolished slavery? Who, 2, introduced the 19th Amendment giving women a voice? 3, fought the KKK that was established, owned, and operated by the Democrat Party? 4, fought Democrats for 1964 Civil Rights Act? Imagine if they had shut up, had quote-unquote shut up, hashtag liberal logic. And that's going back to the Hawaiian senator who said, all you men just need to shut up and get out of the way. And it's like, oh my gosh, we're really retrogressing back into some pretty awful stuff. And that being said, I think that's what Q wants us to look at, right? So Q's saying, why is the Democratic Party fighting to change history? Facts matter. False narrative. Old Democrat Party is now new Republican Party. Line no longer swallowed. Sheep no more. And that's 100% right. That is the narrative they've been trying to sell for a long time now, is that the Democrats aren't the old Democrats, they're the new Democrats. And the Republicans, they're the ones that are now the old Democrats. And it's just, we know what the truth is. We can read a history book, even though they're trying to rewrite history, which is terrifying. But the truth is the truth, and it will prevail. So that is that. And then we'll go into the next one here. Now, this one's interesting because I had originally thought from this post, which was a picture of an airplane with this coded message here, that this was a picture inside of Air Force One, but it's just as easily possible that this is a picture inside of a commercial flight. And it says, how many plane crashes since post standard deviation Q? So we've had almost no crashes, no incidents, no mishaps. I mean, it's been pretty incredible since President Trump took office, how planes just stopped dropping out of the sky, getting lost in the South Pacific, or the South Indian Ocean, or what would it be? It would be the South Antarctic Ocean, whatever, down off the coast of Australia, and weren't getting mysteriously shot down over Ukraine by Russian, anti-missile or air defense weapons. So that to me is something that we have to look at. And Q is actually telling us basically that this is not a coincidence. This is a product of a much higher level of security and possibly some different policies inside of the government. Now, the next thing we're going to get to is very interesting. So you guys will remember a while back we covered this exact post from Q. Now, Q gave us this post, which was an anon who said, basically talked about James Dolan and Aaron Swartz and Kevin Paulson, the three guys who created this thing called Secure Drop, which was a place for whistleblowers to go on the internet. I think it's still up actually, where it's a safe place for whistleblowers to go drop information, right? And then it was basically turned over by Kevin Paulson to Freedom of the Press after James Dolan and Aaron Swartz mysteriously died of suicide. These are young, very successful businessmen who didn't seem suicidal, but they ended up losing their lives to it. Then it talks here about John Perry Barlow and Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, and how they're all connected with Danielle Ellsberg, Glenn Greenwald, and Laura Poitras. Now, and what this is basically getting at, you have Daniel Ellsberg's The Pentagon's Papers, Glenn Greenwald, the Snowden Guardian article that was put out there, where they followed him over to China and did the whole story. You have Laura Poitras with William Benny and the program and Snowden as well. And you have John Perry Barlow. Now, what is John Perry Barlow? What is the big deal here? Well, first of all, when John Perry Barlow's name was first dropped on Q back on January 27, 2018, nobody really thought much of it. But then shortly after that, I think on February 8th of 2018, so approximately a little less than 2 weeks after QAnon dropped John Perry Barlow's name here in connection with @Snowden, he actually ended up losing his life to a supposed, natural cause. I think it was a heart attack or something that he ended up dying of. But it was about a week or about 10 days after this post was made. Now, why is that important? Well, let's understand what Q's trying to get at here with this. Now, I've read this a million different ways, and it's pretty much shaping up to look like John Perry Barlow was a voice that techno corporate elite, they definitely listened to this guy. This guy could actually shape narratives. He was one of the, I would presume, one of the 4 a.m. newsmakers. So with that in mind, you have to understand that these three guys, James Dolan, Aaron Swartz, and Kevin Paulson, they created this thing called Secure Drop. And then Secure Drop was basically, after these two passed away from suicide, Secure Drop was turned over to Freedom of the Press. Freedom of the Press was started by John Perry Barlow. And it was this group that was supposedly going out. It was started in 2012 to go basically uncover corruption, right? And Q told us way back, let's see, this post is from February 15th. So this has been a week after John Perry Barlow passed, about the exact same thing here, and saying it was a 187 post name drop, right? And @Snowden, you are now a liability. So it's told @Snowden, you're a liability now. And what I think this is referring to is that these people have the ear of the techno elite, and they have this whole idea of basically, and it's kind of weird, it's basically, they believe they could separate themselves from us. almost establish their own country, if you will, their own sovereignty online, so that they're not subject to the laws of any country. And it was this really, really grandiose and pretty much pipe dream type scenario where they follow these leaders who give them these basically they're like these gurus who show them exactly what to think and how to feel about the expansion of the internet, the lawlessness that should be there, and how it should be or it should be self-governing. And it's just this ridiculous idea that you're going to be able to destroy sovereignty with, or basically to not have sovereignty with the internet. So that being said, let's read what this Anon put up that Q is pointing to. And this is an Anon who did a dig on John Barlow, meaning they tried to dig up as much information as they could about this. It says, here's some important questions. It says, who would want to kill John Barlow? What benefit would John Barlow's death provide? When was John Barlow murdered? Did John Barlow survive a murder attempt only to succumb to its lingering effects eventually? And it gives this Washington Post article by Jacob Silverman, which says, meet the man whose utopian vision for the internet conquered and then warped Silicon Valley. So this Washington Post article, look how it says here. Look at the wording of this actual article title. It's saying the man whose utopian vision conquered the internet, but then warped it. And this was basically a piece that was put out talking about how John Perry Barlow had this idea for the Declaration of Independence of Cyberspace. And a lot of the tech gurus in Silicon Valley looked at this guy as a basically a guru. I don't know how else to put it. He was their leader, basically their spiritual leader for their movement, their movement, whatever you want to call it, leader. And this is going in the article here that basically he had this whole idea, and that he could bend the ears of the right people to get stories put out there. Eric Schmidt quoted him in his book, The New Digital Age, where he was talking about the world's largest ungoverned space, and they're trying to make this argument that the internet's not governed by any law, when the internet exists in our world, so it's governed by our law. And also that Peter Thiel cites him in this book. But anyway, it's not important what this article necessarily says as much as what this article was pointing to. It says here, the above article was published on March 20th, 2015, and then Barlow suffered a near fatal heart attack about a month later in May of 2015. He later reported that he was recovering, right? So he basically almost died then. Now, this person, Anon's breaking down that Q post where Q says John Perry Barlow 187 post name drop. It says 187 murder, obviously, post the Washington Post, and Barlovian, which is like the term they were using for the way people talk, about in terms of the internet being ungoverned and this Wild West kind of basically that it could be made into its own sovereign area. That was Barlovian, and that's kind of what the name drop is suggesting. It says Q suggests John Barlow was murdered for his ability to influence through his activities in the Freedom of the Press Foundation. The Washington Post article highlights Barlow's ability to influence wealthy techno-capitalists toward his idealistic goals. And then it says, at Snowden, you are a liability. It says Freedom of the Press Foundation is a nonprofit organization founded in 2012 to fund and support free speech and freedom of the press. Its mission includes promoting and funding aggressive public interest journalism focused on exposing mismanagement, corruption, and law breaking in government. It says if wealthy people support Barlow's idealistic goals, then they might help support the Freedom of the Press Foundation's goals. Promoting and funding aggressive public interest journalism focused on exposing mismanagement, corruption, and so on. It says, Edward Snowden has moved into the position which was vacant due to Barlow's death. Q is stating Edward Snowden is identified as a liability by the same individuals who caused John Barlow's 187. So it says other unanswered questions here are whose crimes are threatened to be exposed by John Barlow's activities? Was John Barlow's relationship with Dick Cheney part of the motive that led to his death? Was the heart-related death of Barlow's girlfriend, Cynthia Horner, a botched first attempt to murder John Barlow? Now, this is a crazy story. John Barlow met this woman back in 1993 in San Francisco, and her name was Cynthia Horner, and she actually died on a flight from Los Angeles to New York in 1994, days before her 30th birthday, from a heart arrhythmia, apparently caused by an undetected viral myocarditis. It says, who adapted Jacob Silverman's book for the Washington Post article? Jacob Silverman is the author of Terms of Service, Social Media, and the Price of Constant Connection, from which this article is adapted. Is the Washington Post article a hit piece or coincidence? So there's a lot packed in there, but what it's basically suggesting is that John Barlow was targeted through this Washington Post piece. It's saying who basically adapted this Jacob Silverman book, and these are questions that need to be answered because they're going to point to a lot of different people who may have been involved in this. But it's just asking that question. I mean, this is a simple question. It says, and then Q gives an answer. Simple. It says, we made it public. Operation closed and cleaned. Coincidence post drop. Coincidence no name exact 30. Coincidence Senator Graham activated. In the end, you will be shocked to learn what you've essentially witnessed. Think NYC bomber fireworks hours prior. Where we go one, we go all. Q. So what this all is talking about here is pretty complex, but I'll try to break it down the best I can. And if you guys have any different takes, or if I miss something or get something a little bit different, please correct me down in the comments. But what this is saying is that when they made this public, when they exposed John Perry Barlow for what he is, they had to clean up the mess because they knew that he had been exposed. Therefore, he was not useful to anyone at that point, and that these same people have tried to get rid of him before, right? Because possibly he may be countering what they have originally wanted him or were using him for, right? It says Operation Closed and Clean. I guess that would be a suggestion by Q that whatever it was wrapped up and they cleaned up the mess after themselves, right? And it says coincidence after the drop. Well, obviously, if it's pointed out publicly and everyone's starting to put the pieces together, they're going to want to get rid of that pretty quickly. Now, is it a coincidence that Q puts no name in here? It says no name exact 30. Now, that refers back to the fact that Q actually pretty much predicted to the day exactly when John McCain would end up passing, and we can go back. That's in previous videos. So I'm not going to go over exactly how, but Q told us, every dog has its day, and then basically John McCain died on 30 days later on basically National Dog Day. But people say it's midnight and it was off by a few hours. I don't know, but then it says coincidence that Senator Graham was activated. Well, no, obviously that's not a coincidence because Senator Graham is the one who's pointing out on Capitol Hill. Think about what Senator Graham was saying. This was in that last video we watched. If you guys watch this channel regularly, you know what I'm talking about. But there was an exchange between Judge Kavanaugh and Lindsey Graham where Lindsey Graham was basically outlining the fact that if you help abet our enemies, and this is right after they were talking about 9/11, which is very interesting. It was saying if you help abet and aid our enemies in a time of war, technically we are at war with terror, then you can be held for a military court trial and you could possibly be sentenced to death for treason, a high treason against our country. And so it's all starting to make sense now how there's this broad conspiracy that we're uncovering piece by piece, and we're putting these puzzle pieces together here. And we're actually seeing that, was No Name working with these other outside interests to get stories out to push this agenda through our own government, being influenced by outside actors. Obviously, we know about McCain's work in the Middle East and all the stuff that he was involved in our government. So, I mean, this is really, really getting big. So when Q says we will be shocked to learn what we've essentially witnessed, I think it's going to be crazy. And then when it talks about the New York City bomber, that's talking about the plot. This is from way back where Q told us basically it was a BDT, which is the Bangladeshi currency, right? And he gave us the guy who ended up going down into the subway trying to blow himself up in a terrorist act actually ended up not making that much damage and only injuring himself because I believe personally, there's no real official story on this yet, but somehow this guy originally had a bomb to go down there, but then ended up having it switched out, I believe, with gunpowder, which just made a really loud bang and it burned the guy and he ended up getting arrested. But Q gave us basically blunt and direct time, which was the indicator to know that this was going to happen, and then it happened. So foreknowledge of these events was being given to us by Q, because they're not just trying to prove that they are who they are. The QAnon collective, I mean, they're trying to show those out in the world that we know what they're doing. We know their plans, and we're following them. And we see this whole connection between John Barlow and Snowden and what's going on there. So if you guys have anything you want to elaborate on and get more in depth with that, please leave it down in the comments. I'd love to read through that. All right. Now, the next one here is an Anon who says Ford should down for perjury. I'm pretty sure that what they meant to say was like Ford should be investigated for charges of perjury. But Q gives us an incredible rebut to this, and it shows exactly how, first of all, the reason why the FBI's investigation is basically not going to uncover anything. It's not going to have any great groundbreaking revelations. It's going to basically just confirm what we already know, which is just a he said, she said, where there's no corroborated facts. There's no evidence to point that this ever happened. It's just her word versus Judge Kavanaugh's word. And in that case, you can't just believe somebody who comes and makes an accusation with no evidence. I mean, you've given every chance in the world to have this investigation. But what Q says about Judge Kavanaugh, right? Remember, this is about not Judge Kavanaugh, excuse me. This is about Professor Ford, I should say. It says that basically she refused to hand over therapy notes to the FBI. And Q wants us to think why she would do that. It says because Justice Kavanaugh was never named in those therapy sessions, so it was never written down in the notes by anybody, her therapist, right? And then it says, Mr. X logged in book along with physical description during eyes closed session equals Justice K. So that's literally what it says in the notes. It says Mr. X, and this is, I'm presuming this is what it says in the notes. This is what Q's basically alleging it says in the notes. Mr. X logged in book along with physical description during eyes closed session. So they basically had an eyes closed session where she's trying to recall what happened, and she gives a physical description of the guy, and that's it. But that in and of itself is just because she describes somebody that might have looked like Judge Kavanaugh, she's automatically it's Judge Kavanaugh, right? Even though there's no evidence to back this up. It says FBI no subpoena power, no grand jury to demand. So the FBI can't go in and subpoena them for the documents because there's no grand jury, because there's no crime that's going to be investigated. So that's what Q's trying to bring to our attention, is the fact that without a grand jury, there's no reason or even there's no predicate for a subpoena, right? Because there's no criminal case. It's just, this is literally just into fantasy land at this point, and it's getting crazier. But hopefully they're going to have a vote here. Q says they will. I believe they will. And they're going to confirm him hopefully this week. But it says, Justice Kavanaugh never named, asked during polygraph. And it says something did happen to Dr. Ford in her past use of that something to frame Justice K. So first of all, when they did this polygraph test, which she says she submitted to with her lawyers, right after her grandmother's funeral, she says, they never mentioned Justice or Judge Kavanaugh by name. Right? So think about that. Think about that. They're doing a polygraph test asking her to give the truths of the story. So yes, we do believe you, Professor Ford. We believe you. You were assaulted. You probably have a memory of that, and that's probably a really traumatic thing. But the fact that you went and took a polygraph and they never said, did Judge Kavanaugh assault you? That question never came up. You kidding me? Are you really serious? Are you really, really serious that is not, I mean, if that's the truth, then that would be incredible, right? So it says, something did happen, and they used, this is the Democrats and the Republicans in the committee, in the Judicial Committee and other places, the corrupt swamp creatures used that something to frame Justice Kavanaugh. Right? And then it says Dr. Ford's family has strong ties to the swamp. Well, yeah, her grandfather had connections to the CIA, it's been reported. Her father had connections to CIA front companies like Red Coats Incorporated, Data Watch, and Admiral Security Systems. And also, it's been reported that her brother, Ralph Blasey, worked for the law firm that created Fusion GPS. And if you guys don't know who Fusion GPS is, that's the law firm that made the Steele dossier that was used to spy on the president. And it was manufactured by the DNC and foreign intelligence with the Hillary Clinton campaign, and all under the watch of the Obama administration. So you see how the swamp always ties back into all this. And then it says, the FBI has expanded an investigation into other suspicious acts with support of ABC agency as authority or authorized by President Trump. And it says, was Rod Rosenstein involved? So this is a good question. Was Rod Rosenstein involved? Obviously, you have Jeff Flake and Rod Rosenstein and how they're trying to delay this and push this out as long as they can because they realize, first of all, they realize that Rod Rosenstein, the only reason he hasn't been fired yet or has been forced to resign is because Justice Kavanaugh has not been confirmed. Second of all, it's saying the FBI is, now I think they've really dug themselves in a pretty bad place here, right? Because now the FBI has expanded its investigation into Professor Ford and others to look at the suspicious acts and how did the support of the ABC agencies, CIA and other agencies, affect this investigation? Did they have a hand in this? So this could come back to bite them if we can prove somehow that the CIA or other ABC agencies were involved, from the intelligence community were involved in this, including Rod Rosenstein, who we'll have to wait and see, but I'll leave that for you guys to let me know what you think down in the comments. Now this one's incredible. This is a clip, and I'm not going to actually play the clip because it's not, there's not much here. It's Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell basically says this. He says, we will have a vote this week. That's the point that Q wants us to look at. It's 9 minutes into the video, and he basically just says, we know your delayed tactics, we know what you've been doing, and we are going to have a confirmation vote this week. So that, to me, is something we need to really, really focus on and hope that that is the case. That's at the 9-minute mark. I will retweet this out if you guys want to watch it for yourself. But it says, we will be voting this week. That's the direct quote from Mitch McConnell. And now Q says, heading to Tennessee now, Q. Now this is crazy, right? And then there's this video, which I'm going to put in the description. If you guys want to watch it, it's a great, great video. It's this Ronald Reagan Peace Through Strength cut together. It's got Ronald Reagan's speeches kind of cut together, and it's got this great little music and sound, really inspirational. But what it talks about is how we have to understand that our military is not built to be an offensive force. We are a defensive peacekeeping force. Okay, we have to intervene in certain instances because it's about maintaining peace. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but that's just the way you're going to have to accept the reality of it. So if you guys want to watch this video, go down in the description. You'll be able to find it. It'll be linked. And that is directly from Q+, who I'm starting to really think is President Trump himself. Now, these final two posts are before the rally tonight. And Anon asks, what time is the rally in Tennessee tonight? Eastern time. Q says, does POTUS normally tweet heading to blank prior to a rally? Today, for the first time, we identify where he would be. Reconcile. Q. So now, why is this a proof? It's because of this right here in Anon posts. It gives that post we just looked at, and it says Q is saying that Trump normally tweets when he is going. Today he didn't. Today Q posted where he's going, and that's why the pic is related. And what do I mean by that? Because if you go to President Trump's Twitter page, he didn't tweet out, I'm heading to Tennessee right now for a rally. You know what he did? He left that for Q to do, which is what he did right here. So there's your proof of Q, and that's where I'm going to leave it, and that's where I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I want you to stick around for 1 minute if you guys want to hear a few more things and stick around for some really cool other stuff. So listen to this first. If you guys want to help out the channel, go ahead and click the big red subscribe button if you haven't already. That's the best way to help out the channel. Every time you do that, it shows them that you're here, you know what's going on, you're participating in this movement, and it's just another sign to them that we are here, we are strong, and we are many, and it helps me out too, so thank you so much for doing that. Also, share these videos, watch these videos. This video is not getting the push I want, but that's fine. It's just, it's a video that you should all watch if you want to get a better idea of how China's basically drug problem is our drug problem, if that makes sense. So watch these videos, share these videos, and that helps out big time as well. Also, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights down in the comments, because that is truly what I do this for, is to we have our own QAnon research board at the end of each one of these videos where we don't just talk about Q posts, we talk about politics, religion, culture, everything in between. It's a great conversation. Even if you can't comment, go down, scroll down, read through the comments, and I guarantee you're going to be very, very delighted at what you see, and you're going to read and learn stuff you didn't know. So also, if you want to help out, you can come over here to @Justin_formed. Again, that's @Justin_formed on Twitter. And you can come over here and you can show them that you're supporting this channel by coming and clicking the follow button. And you can get all my tweets, all my videos from YouTube are posted here, all my articles from the website are posted here. And it's a great way to help support the channel, and you guys can get involved with that conversation here. Also, if you're asking what website, well, I'm glad you asked. It's justinformednews.com. You can come over here to justinformednews.com. It's a great tool. It's the official website for Just Informed Talk, where you'll be able to get more Just Informed Talk. You'll be able to get my articles and other things that I contribute and write that I put up here, and it's just a great source to go check out. Also, if you want to help out the channel financially, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. But in order to do that, you got to come over to one of two places. You can either come over here to Patreon, patreon.com. And when you come here, basically, you can search Just Informed Talk. You click this button to become a patron. It's a monthly donation. You can set it and forget it. Give as little as $1 or as much as you like a month. And you guys are the ones that make this channel possible. You guys are the ones that make sure I can do this 24/7, 365. So I'm always here bringing you new information that's important to you. And basically, I don't have to worry about YouTube and the demonetization and all that stuff that happens regularly to this channel. So I'm so thankful and appreciative to every single one of you who come over here and support me on Patreon. And that is just a huge thing. And if you guys aren't interested in that whole monthly donation, I totally understand. That's why I made this GoFundMe. It's gofundme.com/just-informed. And when you come here, basically all you have to do is click this button, and then you can make a one-time donation or an anonymous donation. And that too helps out the channel more than you guys will ever know. So thank you so much for each and every one of your donations and your continuing support. So before we go, I always take a second to talk about the most important thing, and that is God's grace and how it is truly greater. And tonight I'm going to talk about how to talk, basically. I know it sounds kind of weird, but for me, I always look to the Bible as my guide. I look to God as my Father, and I look to Jesus as my Savior, and the Holy Spirit as my essence and what comes into us, and the power, the beauty, and the awesomeness of the world. But then when I use the Bible, it's a tool. It's this incredible tool that we can use to figure out how to live our lives by the will of God, by the teachings of our Lord and Savior, so that we may be better, so that we may do better, so that we can give more to the world, give more to God, and give more to our families, loved ones, and everyone out there. And that's what I want to do for you, is to become better. It's what I want to do for God first. And I know that if I become the man that God wants me to be, or needs me to be, that I'll be the man that everyone in the world needs me to be, my family, my friends, and you guys out there. So with that being said, I want to share this incredible verse with you guys from Colossians, the book of Colossians, chapter 4, verse 2 through 6. And this is talking about Paul's ministry, and it's talking about when he was in prison, what he wanted everyone to do in order to stay faithful and true to the love and glory and awesomeness of God. It says, "Devote yourselves to prayer. Stay alert in it with thanksgiving. At the same time, pray also for us, that God may open a door to us for the message, to speak the mystery of the Messiah, for which I am in prison, so that I may reveal it as I am required to speak. Walk in wisdom toward outsiders, making the most of the time. Your speech should always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you should answer each person." And that means you have to be understanding. You have to know that you're giving this great message of the Messiah, of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And when you devote yourself to prayer, when you devote yourself to God, and you stay alert, and you have that thanksgiving in your heart, then you're going to be able to spread that message to others. And it's how you're going to deliver that message in a great way, so that it resonates with others in their hearts, so that they can take that message and pass it along. And then it becomes this great gift that you're giving, and that's being gifted and gifted and gifted all the way down the line. And it's like causing the ripple effect in the pond, where there's just so many people who are touched and affected by a little act of goodness and righteousness on your part. So remember, if you can do it, devote yourselves to prayer. Stay alert in it with thanksgiving. Always be thankful. Look to God. Understand that every blessing you have is attributable to God. I know everything I have here on this channel with my family, with my life, is because of God's glorious and great nature and his great grace that I look to every day and I'm thankful for every day. But more importantly, I'm humbled by, and I pray to God to make me his humble servant so that I can deliver his message far and as wide as I humanly can. So that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to do it. Come click the big red subscribe button. But that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.